Hi, it's Becky Belote, and guess what? It's time for your Tuesday tip. Okay, so this idea is not my idea, but I think it's super cool. It was one that I saw another advisor do named Tammy, and I thought it was super cool. I use it a lot, and I think that you would like it too. So what you'll need, I'm going to show you how to do a really fun fall page spread, but of course you could do any kind of page spread with it. But I'm going to need 2 pieces of cardstock, or you could use designer prints, whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our trimmer for this and our border maker. And I'm going to start by using the border maker with the new apple chain. This is the newest that we just came out with for the fall. So I'm going to do this really super fast because I know everybody knows how to use this, I hope. It's my favorite tool, and if you're watching me and you haven't gotten it yet, what are you waiting for? It's really awesome. It's a really inexpensive tool too, and I use it almost every time I scrapbook. So I hope you'll get it. So I went ahead and just made a border with the apples. And then the next thing we're going to do, we'll put that aside. Here's a little scrap here that you may or may not want to save. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take this piece of paper and you're going to cut it into a 10.5 by 10.5 square. So I just cut off a border off of one of these edges, and I can't really tell which one, doesn't matter. And I'm going to cut it at 10.5. So you're going to have to open up your bar on this. Don't forget that on your bar, a lot of people don't realize this, there's a pair of feet underneath. Actually, not a pair, but there's a little tab that you can put up so that it'll lay nice and flat, which is going to be helpful. It would be especially helpful if I didn't already have this board underneath, so I'm going to move that. And I'm going to line up this piece of paper to the 10.5, which is way down here. And when I do that, I'm going to get a nice little scrap that you may or may not want to use. I'm actually going to use that one on my spread today. Then, because it's going to be square, I need to rotate it and do it again at 10.5. And then I'll get another nice scrap that I'm actually going to use on my spread today. All right, so we've got great little things there. Now, if you're like me, when you are taking digital photos with your camera, the photos are beautiful. You've probably already zoomed in, and they don't really need to be cropped much. So I like nice standard size mats, and this is going to give you 4 standard size mats for a 4x6 photo. So what you want to do is you want to line up your piece of paper. Oh, let me show you first that on our ruler, which I think is pretty nice about our ruler, our trimmer, it has the measurements right here. I'm going to hold it close to make sure you can see them. It actually has the measurements here. It has the measurements on both sides. It has the measurements across. This way from 4 to 5 here, we have a place in the middle that would be 4.5. So in between here would be 4.25, 4 and 3/4. Down here, they're really nicely marked, and they're really nicely marked here. So we're going to really need those measurements. If you're going to use this ruler, it's very helpful that our cartridge has the little line right here so that you can very easily see where you're lining up. It also has it on the other side. I mean, whoever made this trimmer was an absolute genius, and I am just so glad it was Creative Memories. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up to the 4.25 mark. So these are going to be 4.25 by 6.25 mat. So they're really a nice size mat. So 4.25. So I'm going to start cutting, and I'm going to stop at the 6.25. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this cartridge back so that my little white line is lined up with the 6.25 down here. And then I'm going to go backwards. So that I know is right. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my paper counterclockwise, and I'm going to line up again at where? The 4.25. All right, this time it's going to be very easy because I'm cutting to the cut. So you can start there if you want to at that line and go backwards. And then that is your first mat. Then I'm going to rotate again, counterclockwise. I'm going to line up to the 4 1/4 again. And I'm going to do a cut all the way down. So there's my second mat. Then I'm going to rotate to 4 1/4 again. Do a cut. And this time I get my last 2 mats and another really great little scrap. So let's take a look at some of the things we can do with these pieces. So I'm just going to put down a plain old piece of white cardstock to show you how nice these are. So for instance, if you wanted to put all 4 of your mats down, they'll fit perfectly, just like this. All right, you might even want to put your little square in the middle, say with a little sticker here. Is that really nice? Perhaps you don't want all 4. Maybe you want a look more like this, and you want to use your apple. Maybe we'll put them down a little bit lower so that we can run our apple across the top. Then there's going to be room for that. Okay. Maybe if I did a double page spread, I would use 2 contrasting colors, and that way I could mix and match the mats in these pieces. So what I'm going to, and again, all of these other pieces are very, and if I had mix and match, you could see how, like I could maybe put this one underneath to add another piece of color. All right, so lots of options, lots of pieces that you can use on a double page spread, especially if you're working with 2 different pieces of cardstock. So that's what I did on my final version. So I'm going to move this away and show you the one that I made just before we got on today. These are my scraps. This is what I didn't use. So I used 2 pieces of cardstock, one of the scarlet and one of the leaf green. And this is what I did not use on my page. So I have this left over for something else. And this is what I made. So what I did is I took the thicker red border, I threw my apples across the border, I trimmed off the 2 because this was not quite 12 inches, so I was left with this scrap that I didn't actually use on this page. And then I trimmed off the extra, I cut the piece in half and laid it here. I did the same thing at the bottom. I did both my red and green thin strip that we had earlier. I used those down here. I layered them. I put my other apple chain across there because, again, I had 2 different colors of cardstock, so I had more pieces. All right, then with my little squares, you remember these? I used my new doodle template, and I went ahead and cut out a couple of the smaller apples and applied them down here. And then I used this little pattern right here in the corner with the dot pens that we had while supplies last to go ahead and do these really fun quarters down in the bottom. And of course I used my ABCs to do apple of my eye. So apples can be fall-y. They can be great for school. They can be great for apple picking. These would make a really good fried green tomato or tomatoes. If you put them out, if you carve them, if you punch them out of orange, it would make a great pumpkin. But I love titles that could go with just anything. So I loved the phrase apple of my eye. So I hope that you'll go try this really crazy super technique and get good at it, because I bet you're like me and need a lot of 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 mats. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.